everyone. My name is Sarah Cattell, and I'm honored to be here today to share a story that is universally relevant, but deeply personal to me, my journey through grief. My dad died when I was 25 from esophageal cancer. From diagnosis to his death, it was a quick 10 months, surgery, chemo, and a 2-week remission to dying within a week. But the aftermath of his death was the real challenge for me. I experienced a whirlwind of emotions, shock, numbness, guilt, and even relief, which terrified me the most. This complex mix of feelings made me realize I needed more than just time. A lot longer than 10 months, I needed some extra support. So where does any 25-year-old millennial go to? Google. My search brought me to Help Text. The service provided something unique. I didn't have to leave my house or sit and talk in a stranger's office. I could receive support right away. I signed up and I started receiving personalized text messages that offered more than just the generic advice. They were tailored to my needs, mentioning my dad by name, which meant the world to me, when at a time everyone else seemed to avoid even mentioning him. One text I received in particular mentioned that feeling relief was normal. It read, "Hi Sarah. There may come a point in your grieving process where you feel relief over your dad's death, and you might feel strange or shameful about that. Rest assured, experiencing relief is normal. Knowing that Sahir no longer has to live with their illness can be comforting and complicated at the same time." My feelings were valid. There wasn't anything wrong with me or the way that I was feeling. Now, arguably, one of my favorite parts about Help Text is that you can add supporters. My boyfriend at the time, now husband, didn't know what to say or do. He didn't want to make me more sad, but he also didn't want to say the wrong thing, which I feel like a lot of people have that issue with. So I added him as a supporter. And through the text, he learned to bring up memories of my dad, like when they beat me at beer pong, to making gestures that acknowledge my grief, like visiting my dad's favorite restaurant. Grief literacy is so critical, and it's exactly what the text provided to him. Tips, suggestions, and reminders on ways to support me. And not only did this help me, but it strengthened our relationship, providing a way for us to connect over my loss, rather than allowing it to drive us apart. I felt supported, understood, and seen. Now, this personal experience didn't just help me grieve and inspired my career. I joined Help Text because I wanted to give back in the same way that it supported me. Help Text has expanded its services to support not just those grieving a death, including pregnancy loss and pet loss, but also people dealing with mental health issues like depression, trauma, anxiety, as well as caregivers facing anticipatory grief and healthcare workers facing fatigue and burnout. It's not an app you download and forget about. You don't need data or even a smartphone. I hear flip phones are coming back. Receiving 2 texts a week and additional ones on special dates like birthdays, death anniversaries, and holidays that are important to you. Each text is crafted to feel personal, hopeful, and practical. Texts are created with over 80 expert contributors we work with, like Andrea Warnick, Megan Devine, Barbara Carnes, and organizations like the Dougie Center, specifically creating texts for young teens. It's like getting bite-sized wisdom from experts around the world. We have subscribers in 44 countries and are available in 24 different languages. And we are the first in the world to publish research on grief-informed texting, with our data showing a 95% acceptability rate and a 90% 6-month retention rate, with men and seniors giving it the highest helpfulness rating. These aren't just numbers. They represent the many lives we've touched and supported through their grief, one of life's hardest journeys, just like mine. I'm here today as a testament that from personal tragedy can come profound purpose. Help Text transformed my approach to grief and gave me a new direction in life. Thank you for allowing me to share my story with you.
Thank you so much, Sarah. I'd like to call up Jane, who will be our last speaker, and I thank you for allowing me to do this. We've had a fun time here. I just want to explain how I met Jane, because I think, if anything, it kind of explains how my mind works. I was in this little bookshop, and it's called Alternity, and I just looking at books. And there was this book by Jane and a little business card, and I thought, this is somebody who I want at this expo. And Jane, here you are. And I don't know how else to say it to you, but I found the last few years after working at the funeral home, it's been a year since I left the funeral home, and this is a personal thing I'll share with you, is that I never thought I'd write again. I thought, I'd live and die at the funeral home. They kind of, come in vertically and I leave horizontally. But a spark kind of hit me, and it's continuing. And I think it's kind of funny that you're the last person to speak today, because whatever's happened in this room, I'm hoping it will spark a lot more conversations. We'll get together and do this more often, which I'm planning on doing. But ultimately, how I connect with you, even though I haven't read your book, which I'm ready to do, I think what you represent to me is the power of an idea. And all I will say is, on behalf of the entire crew, which is me, it's my fault. But I just really want to say, Peter, thank you very much for filming everybody. You've been amazing. This is Peter. You are amazing, and we will work together in the future. And without any more shenanigans from me, you are the last speaker. I know you will blow people away with this. I have a gut feeling. No pressure. So Jane, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Michael, for organizing today, for inviting me. Thank you, Peter, for all of your assistance, and everyone staying here for this last talk. I did have a deck that cannot project, so I was scribbling my notes furiously on the back of the music sheet. So let's see how it goes. So, as Michael said, my name is Jane Lee. I'm the author of The Answer, How to Get the Best Answers to Your Life's Biggest Questions. And I'm also a whole host of other things in the well-being space. I'm a yoga and meditation teacher, a well-being coach, and a medical qigong practitioner. When I work with clients, I am helping them move through their difficult experiences and emotions. And I help them do that by being more aware, being more in their bodies, embodied, and being more present. And I often like to give an example of how animals deal with their stress response to life-threatening situations. We have a very similar physiology in that we were meant to respond in a stress response in the same way. So a deer, for example, may be chased by a predator. And once that deer is safe, it will get up and literally shake the stress off its body. It will shake off that stress response, the energy, the cortisol that was surging through them to help them with their fight, flight, fawn, freeze response. The issue is with humans, we often don't shake off that response. We stay stuck and we get weighed down by those energies that were meant to move through us. And so I thought, when asked to speak here today, how do animals deal with grief? Animals that are so attuned to their nature, so present, so embodied, what do they do when a loved one passes? Because we all know animals love. Animals live in family units. They are intelligent, sentient beings. So what do they do when they grieve? And I looked into that, and I found there are 3 things I encapsulated on what animals do and how they process grief. 1, they feel the grief. 2, they express the grief. And 3, they share the grief. And so I want to share this with you. For 1, feel the grief. It's really about being in your body, about being present, being embodied. And when something traumatic, difficult, challenging happens, it's okay to leave your body for a while. That may be a coping mechanism, that may be your initial response, and that's fine. But ultimately, in order to move through those difficult and challenging emotions, we need to be in our bodies. We need to be embodied. And so animals do this by their very nature. It was observed that a wild elephant named Tony gave birth to a stillborn calf. And she stayed with that calf, the body of her child, for 4 days in the searing heat alone, guarding the body from predators, from lions, and from scavengers. She needed to be there to feel the grief. The second way that we move through the emotions that animals do as well with grieving is express the grief. So we know that elephants cry, you've probably seen dogs cry, monkeys cry. They express their emotions, their grief through tears, sounds, words, movement, and inaction. So it's been observed that whales will make mournful sounds that will echo through the waters when their offspring is passed. It's been observed that dolphins will lay on the ocean floor, not moving, not eating, only to surface when they need to breathe and move back down when they're mourning. So that act of not moving, that inaction, is giving them space to grieve. That's the space they need to express their grief. So we as humans need to allow ourselves to be more present, to be more embodied, to feel the grief, and give ourselves the space to express the grief, be it through our sounds, our words, our movements, and inaction, meaning to not go through the regular daily activities that we would have gone through to keep ourselves busy, but to give ourselves space to breathe. And lastly, the way that animals move through the grieving process, from what I observed, is they share the grief. Living in family, living in community units, when a loved one passes, the other animals will come and console the ones that are grieving the most. Other elephant family members will check in on elephants like Tony, caress them with their trunks, caress the bodies of the elephants that have passed, and even the bones with their trunks, of the parts that were most familiar to them, so the jaw. And in this way, they are sharing the weight of the grief. Grief is something that can be shared amongst all of us. And by supporting one another, experiencing with one another, being present for one another, we help move through that grief. Giraffes have been seen giving each other embraces with their necks, neck hugs. Monkeys will gather in groups to give each other group hugs after the death of a loved one. And this is the way that we can help move through grief, by being with our communities, our families, our loved ones, our friends. So no matter what you are going through, be it grief, be it another difficult situation, I encourage you to feel the grief, feel the emotions, express the grief, and share the grief. Be a support for others. Because today, you, tomorrow, me. It's always going to be going around. So we need to help one another. And if you need any help feeling embodied, feeling your awareness, getting more in tune with your nature, I invite you to go to my website, purelyjane.com, and you can try a free yoga meditation class. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jane. Thank you, everybody. You're welcome to hang around. We've got a few more interviews that Peter and I will be doing. But for right now, it's Saturday afternoon and it's sunny.